Got a great one coming at you today. And you ever hear of Every Man's Everest? I'm going to tell you all about it in this episode. But before we get into all that, of course, I got a couple things real quick. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Live Rishi. These guys make high-quality CBD products. They've been supporting the show since day one. I've been using the product long before that. And it's not your head shop and gas station CBD. High-quality stuff, man. Check out the tinctures if you want a good night's sleep. I can't tell you enough how much I love that stuff. LiveRishi.com. Use the code word TABLE. Let them know I sent you, and you're looking at 50% off. Yep. Check them out. LiveRishi.com. Use code word TABLE. And then my website, I'm super proud of it. Would love for you to jump over and click around and check things out. WaltzKitchenTable.com. Made some merch up. Had super good time designing all that stuff. And then I'm also having a really good time doing some blogging. And you can see that at Buy Me a Coffee. You can click on that right underneath my smiling mug on the front page in the video. All right, man, let's get to this. Welcome to Walt's Kitchen Table, where I feature captivating stories from fascinating people. Jeff reached out to me, and this guy's got some stuff flying around in his dome, dude. Super good time. Truly enjoyed talking with him. We hit on some football and cults. That was a good time. But his story, and my son makes a little debut. You're going to hear that. Also, his story about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and that's, if you don't know, that's in Africa, and that's what's called Every Man's Everest. His story about that, well, you know what? I'm just going to let him tell you all about it. Let's get to it. Everything you say is going to be on the internet.
Wow. I dreamed that one day I would make it to the internet, and here I am, Mom. Mom, look at me now.
Are you proud?
I don't know if proud is a strong word. Aware is probably a better one, yeah.
I like that. Proud and aware. Well, and aware.
Yeah.
So did you get my breathing joke? Did you look that guy up? Remember I said the guy that breathes, and you're like, man, I hope he breathes.
Oh.
The guy that climbed Mount Kilimanjaro without a shirt on.
Oh, well, I mean, there's been a few of those that did that.
Oh, I read this book called What Doesn't Kill You.
Okay.
And Wim Hof. You heard of that dude?
I'm sorry, I have not.
All right, so apparently he's this old dude that he's got this breathing technique where it helps you not get cold. Like he can dive in the water, ice water, and he can, like, they climb Kilimanjaro with just like shorts on, and that's it.
Right? And by the way, for anyone listening, don't do that. Go on.
I don't recommend that.
But please go on.
So that mountain has always fascinated me, and when you and I were emailing back and forth, I skipped right over the Kilimanjaro part and all the other stuff. But then, of course, I looked you up and we talked, and that is fascinating, dude. Like, what did you wake up one morning and go, you know what, I'm just going to climb this high mountain?
So it all started, I've been a hiker. I like hiking mountains. I live in New England, so we've got the White Mountains of New Hampshire, and it's funny with with tall mountains, sometimes you just kind of stare at them, and I'm just the kind of person that looks and goes, what's it like at the top? Like, I wonder what that's like. So, I remember the Toto song Africa in the 80s, and in college, I took 2 semesters of Swahili, which is the reason for that, oddly enough, is because of my last name, Belanger, which in Canada or France is Bélanger. And so I had to take a language requirement. In my first semester, I took French, and the teacher thought I should be fluent because of my last name. And I'm like, my family's been here so long, it's not even Bélanger anymore. Like my great grandparents, great turned it into Belanger. We've been here so don't hold me to a higher standard than Tommy Jones over there. Yeah. So I failed. I failed French. What? Yeah, I know. Quel dommage, right? So And then I took Spanish, and Spanish was so close to French, I was confused. Friends like, take Swahili. I'm like, where do they even speak that? She's like, Eastern Africa, Tanzania, Kenya. And we learned a lot and the teacher was amazing. So it just, one of those great professors you get along the way. And we learned a lot about the culture and, of course, the mountain. And it just sort of always called to me. But the way it started was it actually dates back to 2014. I hear a baby crying.
That's my 4-month-old.
Yeah,
that's my little man. Yeah.
Do you have to check on that? Is that?
No, my wife's trying to put him to sleep.
That's okay. Get it.
And the chloroform's not working quite
yet.
So
whiskey. Take it from another dad.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
How many kids you got?
I have one. She's 14. Years, not months. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. But anyway, some whiskey knocks me out. So
I was going to say rub on his gums, right?
Or shots, either way.
My mom used to teething. My mom would rub it on our gums.
Yeah. And now we're alcoholics. Thanks, Mom.
Good looking out, Mom. Thanks, man.
Well done.
Put me on the right path.
Yeah, now I got a monkey on my back. Thanks. So it was 2014, and my brother-in-law Chris. He had been losing some weight and stuff, and so he went to the doctor. They ran some tests and some more tests, and then he was a school principal. He gets a phone call at work from the doctor who says, "Look, get down here right now. Don't make an appointment. Don't wait for your workday to end. Just hang up the phone and get to my office right now." And Chris,
that's not a call you want to get.
Nope. No, doctors never do that with good news. And so Chris gets to his doctor, and his doctor tells him, "You have stage 4 cancer. It's fully metastasized. You have tumors everywhere, and you have 18 to 24 months to live." And
how did he find that?
He was losing some weight, having some stomach issues, just for a couple of months. 44 years old, 44, and just I'm losing weight. Maybe I'm eating better. And Chris was a pretty heavy set guy, and so. He thought, I'm finally trimming up a little bit, and then we had no idea from losing weight to stage 4 cancer, and I only have my only sibling is my sister, and so Chris and I he's funny, smart guy, but we always got along at family gatherings and stuff, but we weren't real close. But suddenly he's dying. He's facing this death sentence, and my sister sort of shut down about the whole thing, right? She was like, "We're going to fight this. We'll do chemo. We'll do radiation. We're going to beat it. Our 3-year-old son is not going to be without a father. Nope, it's going to be fine." And I think the rest of us kind of knew better. The rest of us were just like, it's stage 4 and he's in this horrible depression. But over the next year or so, Chris and I got really close because my day job is looking into the paranormal and haunts and, weird haunted places all over the world. And he called me one day and he said, "You're into some pretty weird stuff." And I said, "Yeah, that's true." And he said, "I'm going through something really weird." And I said, "Yeah, that's true too." And so we started talking about this process, this dying process. And we got closer, and it was surreal, because I was far enough removed that we could talk about it, but close enough that he trusted me. And so it was as was what happens with cancer is you degrade, right? You just get eaten away by this horrible thing. And so about a year or so goes by, and it's the following summer. We get to go to a football game. We root for different teams. What are you going to do?
Who's the Patriots fan?
I'm the Patriots fan.
Okay.
I live right near the stadium, and he's a Giants fan.
Oh,
and,
my man.
Yeah. So the Giants and the Patriots play each other every preseason, and that's all I can afford to see is a preseason game. I could never get tickets to the real games. So I get tickets to the Giants Patriots, and I'm like, "Chris, let's go." And he wears his Giants gear, and
good man.
Absolutely. Well, and I got to wheel him in, right? So
hey, real quick, I just saw a picture of Tom Brady holding up his hands, right?
Yeah.
And he's got all his rings on.
I'm surprised he could lift his hands. They're so heavy.
Right, and then there's 2 empty hands on both hands together, right? Rings on them, and there's 2 empty hands.
Yeah.
Or 2 empty fingers. I'm sorry,
sure.
Fingers. And each ring says, one says the Falcons choked, and each, they put
Yeah.
something on each ring,
Yeah.
and on the empty fingers they put Eli Manning.
Yeah, I know. We're aware.
I had to just jab you.
No, that's fine. I get it. That's we'll always have to live with that. But yeah, no. So it was funny. So I'm that afternoon he could walk, but I had to wheel him up to the stadium in a wheelchair, and then drop him off at the gate, then run the chair back to the car, and then do it in reverse. And he's wearing, I'm wheeling him up, and he's got on his Giant shirt, and people are shooting. I've got on a Patriot shirt, and I'm pushing him, right? So
Yeah.
so people are shooting him dirty looks, and I'm just pointing like stage 4 cancer, and they're like, all right. So we get there. Think about cancer. It's funny, like people who have it, they get reduced to just numbers and data, which sucks, right? It's the only. It's worse than already like having cancer. So and you can't help it. Like when you care about someone who has it, hey, these numbers, these markers are up. Yay, that's good. Oh, these markers are down. Oh, that sucks. I'm so mad. And you forget there's a person under there, So it was pretty cool for us to just be like just two guys watching a football game and taking a few hours off from cancer.
Yeah.
And so the Giant, you'll be happy to know, the Giants scrubs beat the Patriots scrubs in that preseason game. And we went home. And that fall, Chris went downhill pretty hard. By Thanksgiving, he sat at the table with us but couldn't eat. And then like December 1st, he had to go to the hospital because he's just in really bad shape. And he calls me the second day. And he said, hey, man, something really weird happened last night. And I said, what? He said, I'm lying in my hospital bed, and suddenly I'm outside of my body, like 20 feet up, looking down at myself.
No shit.
And I said, what'd you do? And he said, well, I'm scared of heights. He's like, and it was over. I was back in my body. And he said, I know it makes no sense because the ceiling of the hospital room was like 10 feet, and I'm like 20 feet up. It doesn't make any sense at all, but that's what happened. And I went, I've heard stories like this before. And he called me the next day. It happened again. It was happening every day in the hospital. And he said, I can't control it. I don't try to control it. Just suddenly I'm out of my body, and then I'm back in. And it's about a week later that the doctors come in and they says those words that are coming, but it sucks when you finally hear them, where the doctor just says, hey, man, there's nothing more we can do. Your organ failure is imminent, and it's time to go home to hospice. And he lives in Connecticut, and so my family, we drive down, and it's funny because that's not a visit, right? When you go to see someone like that, that's what this is. This is that big goodbye that everybody complains they don't get. And we talked for hours, man. It was the most profound conversation I think I've ever had in my life, and we talked about. He's actively dying. He could be hours, it could be days, but like he's dying. And there's like this oxygen machine in the room. He's in a rented hospital bed. And I remember walking into the room, and it was a real sunny day, and his skin was glowing like this golden color. And I know it's totally unnatural, right? That's jaundice. That's your body's breaking down. But he just was glowing golden. And we talked, and I said, what about the out-of-body experiences? He said, oh, yeah, it's happening like multiple times a day. I can't control it, but now I'm seeing things. I said, what do you mean seeing things? And he said, well, first I saw my cat from childhood. And he said, I didn't even like that cat. And I know, I'm like, oh, all right. And then he said he saw his grandma, and he was close with his grandma. And so I said, what do you think all this means? This out-of-body stuff. And he said, the best I can figure is that there's something inside this broken machine that's getting ready to break out and stay out. And I went,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I thought that was sort of comforting, and he wanted me to tell my sister when she was ready to hear it. And then he passed away just 5 days later. And so that was really hard on the whole family. So fast forward to the following summer of 2016, and I'm at a charity event. We're doing this fundraiser, and a friend of mine from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society walks up and says, Jeff, we got this fundraiser going on. It's going to be great. And I said, oh, Amy, I'm so busy, but I've helped him in the past with things and like raised some money for him. And she's like, we got this thing. I think you'd be good for it. I'm like, Amy, really, really busy. Schedule's nuts. And she said, we're going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to raise money to fight cancer. And it was like the record scratch in the movie. I was like, what now? Kilimanjaro? And so I don't know, Walt, I don't know how many times in your life the universe holds out on a golden platter. This thing where I was like, cross this item off my bucket list as I'm closing in on the age Chris was when he was diagnosed, raise money to fight cancer, do this in his memory, prove something to myself in my 40s, you know. And I just looked at her and I was like, yeah, I'm in. Like that's happening. And so
that's awesome.
So the Leukemia Lymphoma Society actually has this team and training thing. I was put together with 5 other people from New England, all of us strangers to each other, and we trained. We trained all winter, and it's amazing to get so singularly focused on your fitness, because I didn't want to fail that one. You know, I didn't want to get there and not make it. And so we were hiking the White Mountains. We were hiking in the winter and in the cold and learning, you know, how to deal. The thing about Kilimanjaro, for those who don't know, it sits on the border between Tanzania and Kenya in Eastern Africa, just below the equator. So at the bottom, it's always summer, pretty much. I mean, there's a rainy season, and then as you move up, it's like fall. And then the top, it's literally an Arctic tundra. There's glaciers up there and snow.
That's crazy. That place is always fascinated.
Yes, and it's a volcano. It's 19,341 feet tall. It's the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, and it's a dormant volcano. It's not extinct. So there's that. I'm like, oh, if that thing goes off while we're on it.
Well, you would never know.
What, duck and cover? I don't know. Like, what's the move there? You know. So yeah, it was wild to get like that focused on it, and that's how it sort of all came together. Was just like this family tragedy that was sort of like a wake up call that like, don't wait around, man, just go do this now. Don't wait for it to be there 10 years from now or whatever you think it'll be convenient. It'll never be convenient, and that's the very long version of what got me there.
No, that's an awesome story, dude. And I went through watching my mom degrade and finally pass. And seeing her in the hospital say, I'm done. And they removed everything. And, 2 days later, she's gone. And just seeing that husk of something sitting there, like going back to what your friend, right?
Brother-in-law, yeah. Brother-in-law, yeah. Chris, yeah.
Chris was saying that there's like this machine and whatever's running it is no longer there, right? Yeah. So when you see somebody that was alive 10 minutes ago and they're not now, it's so drastically different. You're like, there was something there before, now it's gone.
Totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And growing up, I heard all sorts of crazy out of body experiences and ghost stories. And, I have one that was very profound to me, like in the 4th or 5th grade. For a while, I passed it off as because I had a fever, and and I was sick, but it was so crazy real. I'm like, yeah, and that's what got me going. Yeah, there's ghosts, man. There has to be, just like aliens, dude. There has to be. We can't be the only thing floating around here, dude.
Well, it's fun. I mean, so I've for those who don't know, I mean, I've made a living in the paranormal for like 20 years now. And, writing books, working on TV shows, and talking about like ghosts and other strangeness. And that study of the fringe has led me to some amazing places, but it begs really big questions, So, people don't know this, but before we started, you're like, no religion, no politics. And I swear, everybody, you're safe. It's a safe place. You're going to be okay. But what I love about like a ghost story is that we get to talk about 2 very huge issues. Number 1, death, which is always uncomfortable. And number 2, what happens after we die. Now, if I were to say like, Walt, I want to tell you all about my religion, you'd squirm. You'd just disconnect me. You'd just be like, click, we're done. But if we say like, hey, let's talk about a haunted place, you go, oh, cool. Yeah. And you lean forward. It strips out all the dogmas of all the various religions and belief systems. It just breaks it down to like this simple thing. And if you're a skeptic, you could say, well, it's just a story and I like a good story. I'll listen to that. Fine. That still has value. Perfect. Or if you're a spiritual person, you could say, yeah, I think maybe we do go on. And I think we go on for the same reason that you already said. I mean, I too have seen the bodies of relatives shortly after they've passed. Mm-hmm. And you look at them and you're like, it doesn't even look like them anymore. Right? They look like a different person.
Yeah,
because that thing that made them that was inside is now gone. No. And where did it go? Right? I mean, it should look like they're asleep, but it doesn't.
No,
You know,
no.
it doesn't at all. And I was like, there's something that was there hours ago and it's not there now. And what's next? I don't know. I wish I had the answers. Oh man, I do. I would sell them is what I would do, but I don't. I don't have them. So
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to figure that out for
yeah,
500,000 years, depending on what you believe in.
yeah. There's whole major religions that'll sell you something every week, you know, and they're whatever. But at the same time, I do believe that spirituality, this sort of connectedness to something bigger, is a basic human need. And some of us get that in church or mosque or synagogue or wherever you go. Some people get that in a haunted cemetery at midnight when you're literally looking for ghosts. Some people get it, you know, meditating or looking at a sunset, and it's all okay, you know, like whatever it is that gets you. But I do think it's sort of important that we feel some connectedness to something bigger than just ourselves.
I was going to bring up that exact same thing. I do believe that us as humans, as beings, we're social creatures, right? We want to be around each other. We want to feel like we belong. We want to be part of something bigger than us, right? We don't, you know, people are like, I'm a lone wolf. Dude, if you had any idea what a wolf actually does, that sentence doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, they're pack animals. Wolves are pack animals.
Yeah, 100%. And what a lone wolf, if where that comes from, is what a wolf does to provide for its pack, right? I mean, we won't go deep into that, but the whole I'm solo and I don't need nothing. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
You know what I would say to a lone wolf, to someone who's a self-proclaimed lone wolf? I want you to think about, I'll pose it to you. I want you to think about the shirt on your back right now. It says Walt's Kitchen Table. It's a red shirt, right? Mm-hmm. How many people do you think were involved in getting that shirt on your back? I would submit to you millions
100%.
of human beings, right? There's someone who like grew the cotton. There's someone who designed the machine that would take the cotton and make it into something else. There's the people that made the dye that made it red. There's the people that designed the shirt. There's the people that built the truck that the shirt would go on, and the boat. And there's the people that made the food for the workers who built the truck, who built the food. You know what I mean? Like on and on and on and on, like millions of human beings all over the planet just to put your shirt on your back. Just you.
But you're a lone wolf.
But you're a lone wolf that you couldn't have dressed yourself without the help of millions.
That is such I have never heard anybody break it down like that. That is awesome, dude. Yeah, but it makes total sense. It's absolutely 100% true.
Sure. Yeah, we need each other. We're interconnected, you know, and that's how we've been for for a long, long time, since like 10,000 years, since we started farming, since we said we're not going to hunt and gather anymore. We're gonna stay put, and we're gonna be completely interdependent on each other. I'm gonna grow the food. You're gonna hunt the meat. Someone else is gonna innovate, so our lives are easier. You know, like that's how it works. And so it's really incredible. And so because we're interconnected, it makes sense that we share stories and experiences. It makes sense that we ponder these huge questions. You mentioned aliens before. When we talk about aliens, you're asking like one of the three biggest questions humans have ever asked. Are we alone in the universe?
No.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think so either. No, but I mean, it's a big one, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. What happens after we die? That's what happens when we're talking about ghosts and haunted places. Do we know every creature that walks the earth with us? When we talk about Bigfoots and Loch Ness monsters and sea serpents and whatever, you know, like those are the big questions that people have been asking since the very earliest of humanity, because we want to figure out our place, and not just our little community, and not just our continent, not just our planet, our whole entire universe. We're all trying to figure it out, all of us.
Yep. And bringing it back down a little smaller, in the past, I love playing poker, right? So there was a gentleman that was joining us one time. He was part of the church, very high-ranking person, part of the church. Yep. And he's asked us why we don't go to church. And I said, I hang out with these guys. He goes, it's not the same. I go, well, yeah, it is. I go, everybody comes to church. I go, you just do it in a bigger number.
Right.
Everybody comes to church because they're there for the same reason. They want to feel like they belong. Sorry.
Sure.
They want to feel like they belong. They're with people that feel and think and do the same they feel comfortable because everybody there thinks the same, or relatively the same, or believes in the same things, or gets along with that kind of thing, typically. And I said, it's the same thing we're doing right now. There's only 10 of us. We all think.
I believe that's a cult, by the way, Walt. When there's only 10 of you. When there's only 10, I think that's a cult. I don't know. I got to check the numbers.
No, there was no women and drugs. So no, there's drugs. There was no women.
All right, but I'm not sure that matters.
That's true, huh?
Yeah,
dude,
I could give you some. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I think the difference between a cult and a religion is really just numbers. 10 of you is a cult. 10,000 of you, I think you don't have to pay taxes.
Is a religion. Right. Oh my God, dude, that is amazing. Yeah, the difference between a cult and a religion is where the comma or the decimal point is, right?
Yeah, how many can you get on board?
Yeah. Now, speaking of cults, do you get into those?
Yeah, I mean, so
how come they never work?
They work fine for the people in them, not
for a while though.
Well, sure, but isn't that anything?
Yeah, but this is on a macro level, right?
So, all right. So I think if you're talking about cults, you'd have to look. I mean, specifics help, right? So let's take the Branch Davidians in Texas. Remember Waco, Texas?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Government went in. So David Koresh is this dynamic leader who quotes the Bible, knows it backwards and forwards. Can quote you verse and Psalms and all that stuff. And it starts as a Bible study, and people want to belong, and sometimes they go to a church, whatever denomination you pick, and it doesn't fit right. Just like when you're trying on clothes, you're like, I know I need to wear clothes, but this just doesn't fit. I can't move right. And this guy appeals to them, right? It makes them feel seen and heard and important. And they kind of come into the fold. And then one of the things that starts to happen, I mean, it's not like, hey, we're going to cut our testicles off and ride off on a spaceship. You don't say that day one. That's later. That comes later. So
is that day 8?
Yeah, it's down the road, right? So what happens is, people come in, and I think that the leader starts to believe his own legend. Look at me. They're following me. I must be bigger than even I think I am. Oh my gosh, I am the Messiah. I am this, I am that.
Right. And then he or she goes, what can I get away with? Because
I don't even know if it's that premeditated. I mean, that assumes that the cult leader is got some evil motivation, when in reality, I think what happens is they just get caught up in their own story. And it just gets deeper and deeper to the point where they're believing it. There has to be this delusion of grandeur at some point where you believe, because you couldn't pull it off. Right, no one's that good of an actor. You can't act all day, every day.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
What do they say? What do they say? The best thing about going insane is you're the only one that doesn't know you're doing it.
That's right. Yeah, if you know you're insane, then you're not insane. It's so. It can't be an act. You got to believe it to your core. Otherwise, who else is going to believe you? And so this thing just sort of snowballs on itself to the point where you're like, I want you to just make decisions for me. And lots of people want that, by the way.
100%. 100%.
They want you to tell them how to think and what to do. It's just easier. And so one of the things that happens is that as you get deeper and deeper into this, and here, take my worldly possessions. Sure, sleep with my wife. It doesn't matter. You're the embodiment of God. I'm all in. Because at some point, if you're not all in, then you look at yourself as a failure. I couldn't be swindled, so obviously this is correct and true, and it just gets deeper and deeper.
And then you start believing. Then you start believing your own story, right?
You have to. You have to, or else it falls apart. And so these things just started snowballing on themselves. And the thing about the Davidians that was so interesting to me is there was a Harvard grad who was a Davidian. And it's because it's easy to say stupid people fall for this. Not true.
No.
Really intelligent people who just have a need that's not being filled somewhere in their life can get pulled in as well. Smart, rich, poor, well-educated, poor.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Because you always hear about this guy in the cult. He was the accountant. And if you look at his history before he got in the cult, he was successful, had 4 kids, and made a bunch of money, and his wife, everything seemed happy. And just one day he drove away and gone.
So I think some people just need those answers, and so it snowballs on itself until literally, you're like, well, we're going to need weapons, and it just keeps right. Like we're gonna obviously, and then you're surrounded by government tanks, and then it's just a shit show, right? And then it all goes to hell.
Yeah, but when it gets down to the point before they explode or implode, whatever cult you're talking about. Do you think that the leader or the group, people in the group, see the writing on the wall and they know that this is going to fail or this has no longevity?
Oh, sure.
So do we fall on our own sword, or do we take somebody with us?
Well, that's Jonestown, right? So Jonestown was
and Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate was only like 14 people or something. Jonestown was the 100 people, the whole families that all drank the poison juice. It was not Kool-Aid. Everybody says Kool-Aid. It was not. Kool-Aid gets very upset.
I know they give it a bad rap, man.
They're like,
Kool-Aid
it wasn't Kool-Aid. It was just like juice. But anyway, so they drank cyanide, and at that point, you got to be looking around you and watching people drop and knowing like, oh man. But it's literally peer pressure. And you don't want to be the one that's like, hey, I'm gonna just
I'm good.
I'm not thirsty right now. So at some point, it's just absolute peer pressure to the point of suicide. That's what can happen with like this frenzied, siloed thinking. And this is what scares me, is that we now live in a time, if we're a cult and all we're exposed to is each other, and we're just feeding on it like an echo chamber, just feeding on it. And what scares me is that that's exactly where all of us are today with social media, right? So like your Facebook there's a reason you're like, I can't believe someone voted for this person or that person. All my friends agree with me. Of course they do, because like that's how like social media works. Like it filters out the people that piss you off. You unfollow, unfriend, and then you like the people that support the same exact views you already have. So we're all building our own echo chambers, and we never get exposed to the other viewpoints where we go,
but isn't it? But what gets me on social media, we'll say Facebook, right? We'll just use Facebook. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what Facebook is, you got to get out of the cave, dude. But Facebook, they blame Facebook. They're like, they're putting it in my algorithm. No, dude. No, you're building your own algorithm. When you sit there and like certain things, they're just going to keep feeding you that, because they're like, hey, this guy likes us. Well, we're just going to give it to him. And then you're like, see, look, the algorithm's forcing all this stuff into my feed. Dude.
Here's how Facebook works, right? They built a machine that makes you addicted to it. So, and you're addicted to it because you're like, and I even know what's happening. Like, we talked football before, right? Like, I see a lot of posts about the New England Patriots, who they traded for, what's happening in training camp, who got hurt, because they know I'll freaking click on it. Oh, someone got hurt? Crap. Click, right? I click on that. And then whatever your hot buttons are, it feeds it to you because it figures it out really quickly. And so it's not manipulating you. You're just choosing, right? Like,
that's what
you're choosing.
It bothers me when somebody's like, it's, of course there's the marketing and all that. That's a little more manipulative, but the thing is, in a way it's not. If you look at my Facebook feed, there's zero political and religion stuff in there, because I just don't click on it, and I don't show any interest in it. So my Facebook feed is full of dad jokes and memes, dude, because that's all I look at.
There's a great website that had again, we're not getting, it's just a fact. It's not political, but they had lined up two Facebooks, right? Like a Republican Facebook person and a Democrat, and showed like all the same news stories with like radically different headlines. And you see like what you're getting exposed to, right? Everything is like, support your view, they're the enemy, we're good, they're the enemy. Both sides are saying the same thing. The other side's bad, we're the good guys. Look at
Vice
how
versa.
It's equal opposite on both sides. And so it's fascinating. And because there are news outlets, and news we should put in air quotes, because there's like it's they're not peddling news, they're peddling pundits, they're peddling a viewpoint. My point with all this, with the cults though, is that we're getting in those silos. We're building our own echo chambers, and that's why we're so divided today, right? In the old days, like, you had your neighbors, and if anyone was like a horribly racist jerk, you didn't invite him to parties. and if they had those views, they just had to shut up, right?
Yeah.
And keep them buried and
Yeah.
not talk about it. Now people are emboldened. Whatever insane view you have, there's a whole group of you out there on somewhere, and you can all get together and be like, yeah, we're not crazy. Lots of us think this way.
Yeah, and it's 7 billion people in the world.
Right.
And the way that we can get connected, you got some crazy idea, and all of a sudden on your Facebook feed, 20 people
Yeah.
are agreeing with you, and
Yeah.
you think the whole world is like that, and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, bro, man, you got to look around, man.
Yeah,
You
20
know?
people. That's a team. Like that's
Yeah.
that's a
that's not even half a percent of a percent of a percent of a percent of what's, and
but it's
but
your
the thing-
world. It's your worldview, right? That's what you see.
Exactly right. And then the other thing too is going back to the cult. If you got 20 people in the cult, you go to this guy, he's going to tell you the same thing. You go to this lady, same thing. This
Right.
lady, same thing. This guy, same thing. So
Just like your Facebook feed.
boom, that's right, exactly. It just,
Sure.
but like going back to what you're saying, back in the old days, like where I grew up, again, friends and family would come to a party, and if somebody was like, "Yeah, Bob, Uncle Bob's," there's always a fucking Uncle Bob, right, or whatever you call him.
Always.
Uncle Bob's coming and he's just going to talk a bunch of shit, and we ignore him, and that's what we do because we don't get our feelings hurt.
Yeah.
If somebody goes, "That's an ugly shirt, dude," I go, "All right, cool, thanks, bro."
You know how many people got this shirt on my back? You can't call it ugly.
Exactly.
You're insulting millions of people.
Exactly right.
How dare you?
No, get off! Come on, man.
Yeah.
But I think it's a combination.
Yeah.
Between the echo chamber and people being soft. With what's her name? Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt.
What about her?
Said, nobody can hurt your feelings unless you let them.
That's true. Sure.
So when somebody's on a keyboard behind Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and they read something and they don't like it, they're like, "Oh yeah, I can say something because my handle is Bobby Jeans 75 and I got a cartoon as my thing. Nobody knows who I am, so I can say whatever I want." And it's like, come on, man.
Did you see? You know what? I'm going to look it up because I don't want to get the words wrong. I love this. This was I could be wrong, but
is that a Bigfoot crossing sign you got there?
Yeah, it's a Bigfoot crossing sign. You don't have one?
No.
That's weird.
Wait a minute. Instead, I have a sticker that says some asshole is licking my peephole.
Well, that's nice. I don't have that. Yeah,
It's my favorite author, Mark Tufo.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
He does.
You know, I'm an author too, Walt. I can hear you out loud. Anyway, so this is attributed to Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson. For those of us remember. Social media made y'all way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it.
Fact.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, that sort of sums it up. You say things you would never say in person. So when I started my career, I worked for newspapers. For those who are younger, newspapers are this paper stuff that used to arrive every day, and it had news in it, and like local news and national news.
It was like print on it,
words and pictures, like a book that you'd throw away every day. Like it's crazy. Anyway, so when I was growing up, the newspaper. The opinion section, there'd be a conservative columnist and there would be a liberal columnist, and you probably lean one way or the other, but you'd read both. Maybe you'd get pissed off, or maybe you'd say once in a while you'd say, all right, there's a point there. Okay, all right, I get it. I disagree with this and this, but I see your point there. And like, there's at least some middle ground. Now you don't even get exposed to the other side. You just like look at your own. And so that was the nice thing about newspapers. And so there was like the idea of like journalist integrity. Like you keep your opinion out of what you write. You keep the facts. You be objective. And that's the way I learned to present things. Right, just be objective. Let the facts speak for themselves. Let the people you interview view their points, and that's where it goes. And so I feel like we're losing that, and it's such a shame because we don't have daily newspapers anymore. I mean, I know they're still out there, but people don't read them. Let's be honest. Like you need it.
Keeps the bums warm.
Yeah, right. And so it's such a shame because like we've lost that good local voice, and now we're just fed whatever.
Yeah, you know the deal. It's clickbait to
clickbait.
Get people to watch it so they can sell advertisement. Da, 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 da. We all know the thing, and if you don't, you might want to.
So people used to value the information enough to pay for the paper, right?
Right.
So you would pay for the newspaper. Yeah, there's ads in it, but like you would buy the content, and they would pay the writers to be objective and give you not the news you want, but the news you need. Like this is
the news that was true.
Right. This is what's happening.
Yeah, the opinion of the writer of the news that was going on. But
right. So we lost that.
Yeah, and then like you said, the thing is with a newspaper or being with a group of people that thought different or think different, that you can say your opinion and you're okay with that. Like if I say something now to you, Jeff, that you don't agree with, you'd be like, all right, dude, that's cool, but I don't agree with it. And I'm like, all right, cool, that's cool. All right, next. And we just keep going, not like, oh my God, you hurt my feelings. And I'm going on your website. I'm going to cancel you. I'm going to go on your social media and do all this. Dude, stop.
Well, the other thing too, so I've had this career, in the paranormal, and some people, it offends them to even speak of the notion of haunted places, offends some people greatly. And I've had like horrible things posted about me online and bad book reviews. Like there's no such thing as ghosts, therefore this book sucks. And I'm like, dude, I'm not asking you to believe in ghosts or disbelieve. Like these are the stories, that let them fall where they fall. And even when I speak in front of live audiences quite a bit, and I've had people stand up and try to get into it from the audience, but they forget I have the microphone and the experience. So I dare you.
Oh, I love those people.
At this point, like you're out of your league. I promise you. Like maybe 20 years ago, I would get a little rattled, but not anymore. It's not going to go well if you stand up in my audience.
Yeah, and take my spotlight now.
Yeah.
No, this ain't gonna happen.
That's right.
But I just don't understand why. Is it because? So to go back a little bit to come around.
Yes.
There's this phrase that I believe wholeheartedly, and just to make sure that again, I'm gonna look on my thing here just to make sure I have it right.
Right.
It's not my quote, but I use the hell out of it. And I just think that we as humans have stuff built in our DNA that we are not going to get rid of in a decade or a century. Like sitting in a cubicle. No, dude, we're not built to do that. We can't do that. And damn it, no one's saying I didn't know that was gonna. I want to give the guy that quoted it. I don't know who quoted it, but I don't want to hack it up on him. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Give him some respect. But that's what I'm saying though is with ghosts and stuff like that too. Why do you think that stuff is not as prevalent as it was in the 40s and 50s or in the 1800s? Or even in the
ghosts?
Like ghost stories and stuff like that.
Au contraire, mon frère. Do you not have cable TV?
No, I don't. No, I don't actually.
Okay, so streaming services, like So there's a million paranormal shows out there looking for haunted places all the time. I've worked for Ghost Adventures, the highest rated one, for 13 years now. Right, like there's Ghost Hunters, Ghost Nation, Ghost Adventures. Like there's Kindred Spirits. There's with Ozzy Osbourne's kid. Like there's so many shows that are out there. I think paranormal is more in the mainstream than it's ever been. But so ghost stories have always been around, and in times of turmoil, they tend to bubble up, and that's not new. That goes back centuries. So, for example, the spiritualist movement, the idea of like mediums, people that could communicate with the dead. Mm-hmm. That the spiritualist movement was born in this country in 1848 in New York and upstate New York, this little haunted farmhouse. And I think that movement would have died out if not for the U.S. Civil War in the 1860s. You had tens of thousands of people dying, untimely deaths, and people wanted answers. I mean, today it's hard for us to put our minds back then, but there was a time when like your husband, brother, son, whatever, nephew, uncle would go off to war, and you don't hear from them ever again. ever.
Right.
Nothing. I mean, some of them are alive and well. They just started new lives somewhere else, right? Some of them were killed and unidentified, right? Unidentifiable. Some of them were killed and buried, and no one bothered to write you a letter. You never know again.
So they're looking for answers or closure, right?
You go to a medium, and spiritualism blew up. Spiritualism became huge. So you would go to a medium and say, "Where's my husband?" And they'd give you an answer. They might be full of it, could be a charlatan, doesn't matter, but they would give you an answer, and you would have that.
And it would give you some kind of comfort.
Something.
Even if it was a placebo, right? Even if it was full of shit and it was a, quote unquote placebo.
Doesn't matter.
If it made you feel good, it works.
Yep. And you paid, and then you tell your friends, go see this medium because I finally got the answers. My husband was killed at a Potomax, and that's that. And
but actually he's alive and well, sleeping with some other broad.
Could be, back then you could disappear. Today you can't.
No, you can't.
You really couldn't. It's tough for us to sort of think back on that, but you really could have disappeared back then. So then things sort of calm down. The Ouija board is a byproduct of that. The whole idea is like, don't go to a medium.
Fuck that thing, dude. Burn that thing to the ground.
It's been around since 1891.
I know.
It's like it's a piece of Americana, and it only got scary since 1972.
That's when it like broke out?
No, that's when it got scary. It was huge. So the Ouija board outsold Monopoly in the 1960s. Right? Like everybody had one. This is a parlor game. Norman Rockwell, Saturday Evening Post. There's a Saturday Evening Post from 1920 where there's a couple using a Ouija board. There's nothing scary. It was just like this. I mean, that was Twister before Twister. You know the game Twister, right?
Yeah.
You're teenagers. You're like, you have a boy-girl party. You're like, let's play Twister. It's not a fun game. It's an excuse to get all tangled up in each other and maybe rub up against people.
I was just gonna say, right? Did you see what I touched?
Yeah, right. Like, oh, right foot red. Like, why are you going all the way over there? Just cause, So, back in the early 1900s, men and women were supposed to be chaperoned. They weren't supposed to sit too close. But the Ouija board, you'd put it on the laps of each other. Your fingertips would be touching each other on the planchette.
Oh.
You would be so dangerously close. That was Twister, circa 1910. That was what you did. You don't care. Awesome. Doesn't matter if it works or doesn't work. Talk to dead grandma. I don't care, right? This is about us getting too close and doing things. And so it was wildly popular. In 1972, William Peter Blatty wrote The Exorcist. Great book. Made into a horror movie classic, right?
Amazing movie.
And that's a line in the sand where Blatty used the Ouija board as like the way that the demon got into the girl Reagan, and it sort of like took hold, and people started referencing that, and then from there it became this gateway to danger and all this other stuff. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it has the power you give it, whatever that may be. It's just cardboard and plastic. I mean, it's same as Stratego or Trivial Pursuit or Othello or Monopoly, except Monopoly causes like violent fights in my family. I don't know about yours.
100. Yeah. We don't
beat each other up over Ouija boards, but Monopoly, Monopoly. Careful. People are sleeping on the couch.
Isn't that crazy that Monopoly does that?
Of course, it does it to all of us.
It's competitive, right? Is that what it is?
The trick, by the way, is just buy everything. Just go 100%. And buy. Yeah, buy. And
when my wife and I first met, we would play with friends and stuff, and within a couple hours, not even, I'd crush everybody. And they're like, "What'd you do?" If you can't figure it out, man, I'm not going to tell you.
Buy everything. Yeah. Go.
Yep. Lean against everything. Buy everything. Take chances. Just go.
Yeah,
but anyway,
that's the way. No, but so anyway, so it's so the power of belief, right? It plays such a huge role. It creates legends. And a legend means something that's bigger than the original thing, right? So, you mentioned one earlier, Tom Brady. He's a legend, right? Like so, sports. We're not doing this. There's no debate.
No, there is absolutely no debate, dude.
Yeah,
that dude is an OG GOAT.
Yeah, so he's the GOAT. And so here's the thing. And by the way, we could, Michael Jordan, right? Like we could name all kinds of athletes that were just so great beyond their years. And when you're a rookie getting onto the field or the court against one of those legends, you're like, I mean, imagine Michael Jordan in his prime and you're a rookie. Like, you're a rookie, not first round draft pick rookie. You're like somewhere down the line and you're getting on the court and you're like, oh my God, that's Michael Jordan. He's already winning and the game hasn't started. Right? The power of his legend is bigger than him. He's still a guy. He can have off nights. He's a fallible human being. He's just incredibly good at what he does. And so there's a legend that grows around that. There's legend that grows around anything that we believe in, right? Places become sacred because we believe in it. 9/11 site, right? That is hallowed ground. I mean, I think the memorial they did is actually beautiful and wonderful and honorable and all that. And when you go near it, like, you feel something.
You definitely do.
Of course you do, because there's a power to that place. You know what happened there. You go to like Gettysburg in Pennsylvania, you go to those battlefields and you're like, holy cow, man, this is like tens of thousands dead, missing, or wounded in just 3 days right here. And you feel that. And you feel that because you're a human being and you have empathy. And you can pick up on the emotions of others. Even if those people are not there right now, you can imagine what it must have been like when you're in that place. You can imagine what it must have been like in the Twin Tower, knowing like, this thing's going to come down around me. Like, what the horrible fear, the dread. Even. Right, and that's but we should connect, and that places like that should haunt us, right? They should, because we don't want it to happen again. We want to keep our guard up. We don't want Gettysburg to happen again. We don't want all that stuff.
So part of that, what you're saying toward the end there, I agree with you on all that. And going back to what we said, that there was something in this machine of us that. Yeah. So with you being a ghost guy, Gettysburg, for an example, got a good buddy who runs an amazing podcast, by the way, about Gettysburg. I'll tell you about it later. Do you think that some of that energy is still there? And that's what you feel when because, like you saying about the Ouija board, you're the one that gives it energy, or you're the one that gives it the power of what it has. Do you believe that with, again, using Gettysburg as an example? Because you could use 9/11 too as an example, because there's so much carnage so very quickly, right? So now there's all this energy surrounding it.
Right. So I think sometimes events literally get burned into a location, almost like a movie that's going to play over and over again. It doesn't. I really struggle sometimes with the notion that like this earthbound spirit, right? Because I've never found a place that's haunted all the time. It's if I did, I'd buy it and I'd charge you money to come see it, right? I'd be like, you want to see the ghost? $20. All right, I'm opening the door. Wave. All right, there it is. All right, that's it. You want another look? It's another 20. So, but like you go to Gettysburg, and I think what happens is that some of us are able to sort of tune into that movie that's just been imprinted on that land, and we'll be there for as long as we remember what happened. I mean, when the memory fades, so too will the legend. So too will the haunting. And some events, some places should haunt us, should become sacred. We don't want another civil war. That would be horrible. Right. We don't want another 9/11. People shouldn't have to die at work in their office buildings. We don't want that to happen. And we want that to haunt us. We want to remember. And so sharing the stories and feeling that feeling that we feel when we're in those locations and talking about it with others, like, man, you feel something. Yeah, you do, because you should. You're supposed to, right? It's important. Yeah.
No, I get that. And it just, because like you do a lot of hiking. I mean, when you're walking through a woods somewhere new, all of a sudden you just feel something, right? You ever have that experience?
Sure. Yeah.
And then you're like, there's something here at one time, or something happened here at one time, and then that feeling's gone. But you're like, you felt it. You felt it, and you can't deny that you felt it.
Well, so I also, I go all over the world to like some of the creepiest places, like old castles and asylums, and I've been European castles in the dungeon and stuff, and I've been in Australia at the Manny quarantine station right outside of Sydney, where they were brutal, man. Like, did you just sneeze? Get in that room, right? And that's where you stayed until you died. Yeah. Like, they didn't mess, and like we were this old prison in Australia. Like, you go places and you feel something. So I remember I was walking up to an old tuberculosis sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. Waverly Hills is the name of the place. And it was like 400 rooms, this giant building. And this is where people with tuberculosis came back when it was literally a plague plaguing us. And for some people, that was the last stop, for hundreds of them. I remember thinking, like, walking up to this building, how would a patient feel looking at this place knowing, like, this is my last address? I'm sick. I've got this lung affliction, this thing that I caught, this pandemic that's going around. And I'm going to go here, and they're going to try to keep me comfortable until I die. And that's scary. I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah, but what about, like, going back to your brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Knowing that too, right? I mean, when he left the hospital,
yeah,
and they're like, "You're going home, dude." I mean, same type of feeling, right? Wouldn't that?
So the thing with him, the thing that was him with Chris had this peace only at the end, by the way. He only found that peace in the last weeks of his life. And thank God, at least that, right? And I remember his last, like, 2 weeks, it was sort of like he got to attend his own funeral, because everybody came to see him knowing this is the goodbye. This is it. You have to make your peace now because he's not going to be here. Right. And he was so gracious, and there was no ill anything. It was just, thank you for being here. It's so wonderful to see you. I appreciate that you were in my life. And I thought, wow, I mean, how blessed were all of us that got to have that, So
on behalf of Chris, what comes to my mind, the situation you were just describing. During the day, everybody's like, "Hey, how's it going? Good to see you." You know that you're not going to see him again, right?
Yeah.
Well, and back in 2016, I was put in the hospital for my back. I was paralyzed from the waist down.
Oh,
I
wow.
could for a little over a week. And during the day, it was amazing, dude. People were coming. My wife was there. Everybody's all happy. Everybody's bullshitting with me and everything, telling stories. All's good. At night, totally different story. You're sitting there by yourself, staring at the ceiling, because you've watched everything on Netflix, whatever, whatever Netflix is at that time. I just think of how I was feeling, but take Chris, where he knows he ain't coming out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I just want to give another perspective of that. It's awesome to see those people during the day, and it's awesome to see your friends and family. But, man, with that downtime at night, or whatever his schedule was, daytime, nighttime, whatever it may be, that's brutal, dude. And that was brutal for me. It broke me in a week.
Yeah.
My wife, and my surgery was on a Friday. She came to see me Thursday night, and I broke, dude. I was done. I was bawling, and I'm like, fuck this place. What, and so I can't imagine the people that live in that condition and what they think, or knowing that they're not. He knew he was done.
Yeah, he knew.
You know?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, you and I don't think have the capability to truly comprehend the peace that he had, because we're not in that situation.
No, right, and God willing, you never find out. But yeah, no, But I could see the genuine peace that was over him at the very end, and that was comforting to me. That at least he got that. I guess there's some point in all of us where you're like, I've fought all I could fight. I've done all I can. It's time to take a bow. And the real lesson I got, I climbed Kilimanjaro after that, right? Like, that inspired me to, like, don't wait, do the big things you want to do them now, because you don't want to leave it on the table. You don't want to have regrets of, like, man, what if I had done that thing? What if I had tried this thing? And so I try to have the adventures now. I try to, take the chances, whatever it is, whatever that thing may be, go do it. And so for me, Kilimanjaro was I love how a mountain can be a metaphor for anything. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely
anything. Like trying to get over a breakup, like that's a mountain you got to climb. Like trying to find a new job, like that's a mountain you got to climb. And so what's nice is when the mountain is literal, you know what you're dealing with. Like, okay, there's one step and then another, and that we go higher and higher until you can't go any higher. And you really test yourself, and you get to know yourself, and you get into like this whole other realm of disconnectedness, right? So on the mountain, it's 6 days to get to the top and 2 days to get back down. And
now, is that for acclimation?
Yeah, so we took the longest way up, 40,
Okay.
43 miles in total, and you
Oh,
got to walk
shit.
all of it, you know? And so, yeah, so you acclimate and you're getting higher and higher, and breathing is a whole other thing. Once you get to 10, 12, 15,000 feet, it's just a whole other scenario. And but one of the things I didn't count on when I went there is obviously there's no cell signal, there's no Wi-Fi, you know, it's but
What? You couldn't post on Instagram?
you couldn't post to the gram, no. So after like 3 days on the mountain, like day one, I was just like, oh my God, I'm missing work. Is my family okay? If someone gets hurt at home, they can't call me. Like, what do I do? Oh, you know, and then by like day three, I was just like, the world is just going to keep spinning and it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. And I'm going to be fine. I got to worry about me. I just got to walk and eat and sleep and not get hurt, you know, and just keep moving. And it was to get so basic like that was so resetting. You know what I mean? And you don't have to go to Africa to do this, right? You could go camp in your own woods or wherever, right? You could just
Right,
get away.
right.
Just turn your phone off and leave it at home. Go for a walk. You know, we could do it.
My wife and I, before we had Logan, my son, we went on a little excursion. She set it up, and we had a great time where we went to upstate New York to a cabin
Yeah.
with no amenities for 4 days, 5 days, somewhere in there. And when you break it down to the basic human needs, it's pretty cool. It's a cool
shelter, food, right? Like, yeah, like that's about it. And not only that, I remember at one point I had on my backpack. Obviously, like there's food in there. There's a rain shell. I had some pictures of family, some water, and you know, like my poles. And at one point, I remember walking in the middle of this incredible mountain in Africa and being like, everything I need, not want, need, is in my backpack. And then you get home and you look at like all your stuff and you're like, I don't need that. I don't need that. Like what I needed was back there. Food, water, clothes, right? Like and I was good, man. And it was so refreshing to just strip down to like, it was resetting is what it was. And life changing, you know, when you sort of put yourself through that. And I think it's important that we challenge ourselves regularly. Like we intentionally put some mountain in front of ourselves to say like, all right, let me see what I got. And even if you don't make it to the top, it's okay. At least you tried. You know, I mean, the only failure to sound, sorry to sound like a cliche, but yeah, the only failure is to look at the mountain and go, I'm not even going to try. It's too hard.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, well, get halfway up. That's amazing. You know?
So what you just said, coming back to that quote that I was looking for,
yeah,
that I like. It says, deep in his heart, every man longs for a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I mean,
that.
So like what you were saying, climbing that, you just wanted to get up. That's an adventure. That's a battle. It wasn't. Yeah, you didn't have a sword and a shield, and you weren't going out and trying to kill somebody. But no, that was a battle that you had to win to get to the top.
And it's you realize at some point in the journey, the battle is with yourself,
100%.
and there's no more formidable opponent on earth. Right?
You got to make a meme out of that, dude.
Yeah, like no one, because you know your own weaknesses, right?
Oh yeah, you know what buttons to push, when, how
all
hard.
of it. Yeah, you will never face an adversary worse than yourself.
No, 100%. Now the thing is, you climbing up there, did you have like all the Sherpas and everything? And
yeah, so we had guides and we had porters that got us from like camp to camp, and they carried a lot of the food, some water, you know, our tents. But they get you to like the base camp, and then the base camp to the summit, it's just our guides. But like you're on your own. I mean, I got to carry my own pack. No one's with you at that point. Mm-hmm. So the final push to the summit was just, you know, me and the mountain. And obviously there were people around me. One of our guides had oxygen, didn't need it, but it was there just in case, which was comforting.
Oh, so you did it with no oxygen?
Yeah. I'll tell you though, at 15,000 feet, which is where the base camp was. Keep in mind, 19,341 is the top. At 15,000 feet, if I were to just sit perfectly still and relax, it's okay, but just walk 10 yards. It's just like, and then 16,000 feet is exponentially worse than 15 and 17 and so on. It just gets worse and worse. What it's like is, those little stirring straws you get at the diner to stir your coffee or your tea?
Yeah.
Take one of those and just breathe through that,
Fuck all that, dude.
And then, so and that's not so bad, but now keep breathing through just that straw and go for a little jog. And at some point, the only way to get enough air through that little teeny tiny straw is to slow down, like way down, and just till you get enough air that you can function. And so every step was just slow, and trying to breathe. And it was so damn cold. Man, I'm from New England. I can handle the cold. I know cold. I know snow. I know cold. We got this. But man, I had on this balaclava that covers your whole face except your eyes, But the fabric was just enough. I couldn't get enough air through the fabric, so I'd pull it down to breathe. But then my face would get so cold I'd have to put it back up to warm up, and so I had to alternate between being warm or breathing. And those are two tough choices to make.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
there's no lesser of the evil with those ones.
Right. So it was just slow going.
Now, your base camp was that in the snow or not?
No, so Barafu Base Camp, 15,000 feet. There was no snow there.
Okay.
But we started at midnight for the summit because it's going to take 8 hours to get up there. And as we're getting higher and higher, then you're starting to see ice and glaciers. And it didn't snow on us that day. But, and you're so far above the clouds, right? Like precipitation at that point wasn't too much of a concern, but it's just so dark and so cold, and you have on a headlamp that you can just see 3 feet around your feet, just rock and dirt and the feet of the person in front of you, and you just follow them. And that was at some point, 3:30 in the morning, I remember thinking I don't know if I can go any higher. And you pass plaques where people have died, literally markers, commemorating, remembering so-and-so who died right here because he couldn't breathe. And you go, oh man, people died doing this. And still though, there was one point where it was 3:30 in the morning and I'm so cold and I felt I don't know about you, but my whole life I've had constant chatter in my head. I'm always replaying conversations. I'm always debating things.
Oh,
with myself.
I should have done this.
At 3:30 in the morning, those voices went silent. And I'm I just remember uh-oh, right? That's either really good or really bad.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. And so, but I just kept walking. And then at 4:30, I turned around and forever out on the horizon, there's just this little glow, right? And I realized the sun's coming. This is the earliest hint of light. Mm-hmm. And you think, okay, if I can just get a little higher, and every 15 minutes it's a little bit brighter. And then about 6:30 in the morning, we reached the rim of the volcano, 18,800 plus feet. And the sun had just broken above the clouds. And I remember just this golden glow on this sea of clouds, far, far below you, the clouds.
Yeah.
And I was it was the same golden color that I saw on Chris's face the last time I saw him.
Oh, wow, that's super cool.
And right there, man, I felt him with me at the summit. And it was this profound moment. That sunrise, the world's warmed up 15, 20 degrees because now you got sun. Mm-hmm. You don't need the headlamp anymore. You could see. And I felt Chris, and I felt this big presence. And I knew right then, even though the summit was another 500 vertical feet, another 3/4 of a mile, another hour away from where we were, right there, I'm this is a done deal. I'm making it. This is done. I just got to go finish this now. And I knew it, and I did. And you just trudge around the rim to get to the actual highest point.
Okay.
And yeah, it's not a rock face at that point. It's just the highest point happens to be way over there, and so I just remember seeing the little sign in the distance, and it just gets closer and closer, and you're just breathing as deep as you possibly can, and then finally it's 10 feet away and 5 feet away, and you just touch it, and there you are, man.
So what is it? The peak? Like a pole of some kind, or just a marker?
There's a sign that says "Welcome to Uhuru Peak," and Uhuru means freedom in Swahili.
Oh, okay.
It's "Welcome to Uhuru Peak," the highest point on the African continent, 19,341 feet. Tanzania. It's where you get your picture taken. You know what I mean? Like, it's the trophy, and that's all it is, right? It's about the game. That's just the trophy you get to bring home. And we're only up there like 10 minutes because you can't breathe, and there's a long way to go. You got to get back down. But one of the lessons that was so profound at the summit, it was an old mountaineer told me this, but it doesn't hit you till you're there. He's like, you got to remember the summit. You got to know where you are. The summit is the halfway point. And I was like, oh God,
because you got to
get down. You got to right. It doesn't count if you die up there. It doesn't count.
No,
right? Yeah. Like,
big deal, dude. You made it, but you didn't make it down.
You made it to the top. You made it halfway. And so I was like halfway, and you realize, the next step I take is the first step toward the real destination, and the real destination, of course, is actually home. Right? Like, you don't just got to get to the bottom of the mountain. I got to get home. I got to get home to my family. And so it sort of hit me that now before, like, you just wanted to make it to the top, but now I have purpose. Now I have to, like, get myself safely down and then back to the hotel, shower for the first time in like 9 days, and and eventually get on a plane and get safely home. And then it's over. Then I made it.
Then there's your new battle, right? You made it to the top.
Yeah.
Here we go. Now I got to.
Now I got to get home, and I got to bring this cool. And what was cool is, like, there was this sense of mission at that point, because I'm like, something changed in me. I couldn't tell you what, and it wasn't like I'm a totally different person. I'm not enlightened. It's nothing like that. But like something, I'm slightly better, slightly improved, and I felt it. And it took, weeks and months to sort of figure it out, but I was like, I got to bring that home. I got to bring this better version of me back home and let my family see it. I remember my wife looking at me, like, for that first day. I took like 1,600 photos, and I'm loading them all on my laptop, and I'm showing her, like, day by day, and she's just sort of staring at me like, are you different now? Are you like a different person than when you left? And the answer is yes, sure, but not radically different, I still laugh at fart jokes and stuff like that.
A good dad joke is right.
Yeah, nothing changes like that. And so and then eventually it's behind you, and you it's a memory, and I get to keep that forever. That I climbed Kilimanjaro, no matter how bad my day gets. Like, I get to keep that forever. But now I'll tell you, there was like a bad 6-month hangover after that. Just like, well, now what?
Well. Okay.
Now what do I do?
You came off an adrenaline high.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, I'd planned for this. I told everyone I would be at the bank, my local bank. I'm like, oh, hey, good to see you today. I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. And the grocery store, the checkout clerk, and they're like, okay, great, good for you. So, but I told everybody because also I wanted that to be a motivator. I didn't want to come home and be like, I didn't make it.
That's definitely a motivator.
Yeah, I wanted to answer to all of them. I told everybody because I wanted to come back and be like, yeah, man, and I did it. I made it. And I did. And that was great. And it was awesome. And but yeah, that sense of now what? Now what do we do? And that's the challenge, right? Like, how do you find your next thing? And of course, it doesn't have to be that big. There's little things in our lives every single day where you're like, all right, well, what's the mountain I'm going to climb today? You know what? I'm going to finally, like, fix the garage door.
Right, sure.
That's something. That's an accomplishment.
But going back to that kind of stuff is so hardwired in our DNA. Okay, I just did this.
Yeah.
Now what am I going to do to trump that? Or now what am I going to do to trump that? What am I going to look at Tom Brady?
I know.
I got X amount of rings. I got X amount of rings.
Yeah. You've heard his quote, right? You know what his favorite ring is, right?
The middle one?
The next one.
Hey, I like that.
That's what he always says. He'll put on his brand new ring and be like, I'll tell you which one my favorite is. The next one. And,
that dude is just born to compete.
Yeah, no, he surely is. But I think all of us can take a lesson there, right? And a little success feels good. Whatever that challenge whether it's like, hey, I want to run a 5K, I want to, like, run a mile without walking, like any sort of, like, goal you set for yourself that proves you still got the mettle, you still got the grit, because our lives get sort of comfortable as we get older. You're like, it's just not the struggle that it was when you were 20.
Well, isn't there an app for that?
Yeah, there's an app for everything.
Right? But no, I agree with you. And I believe through physical exertion of some kind. And again, like you said, you don't have to climb the mountain. You can fix a garage door. You can
Yeah,
do a really good job shoveling the driveway. And you look at it and you go, damn, dude, that's a good job right there.
Yeah.
But I think that comes from physical activity.
Yeah, it's important. It's super important,
Yeah.
especially as we get older and our jobs maybe have us sitting at a desk all day. Like we weren't wired to do that, and so you gotta force yourself to get out and have adventures and whatever that looks like, and find your thing. Like that's what's important.
When I came out of my back surgery, not a couple hours later, the physical therapist come over and was like, "Come on, man, we're going for a walk." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Well, I just was back surgery, had all the complaints that you would normally say, and with no small amount of bitching from me, she gets me out of bed.
Yeah.
We go to of course, I'm just like shuffling, right?
Yeah.
We get to her room, it's got like a toilet in it and a sink and some stairs, a physical therapy room.
Yeah.
And painted against the back wall, as big as it can be, was a phrase that says "motion is lotion."
Yeah.
And it was so profound. It's still, dude, I put it on a shirt. I got T-shirts in my merch store that say "motion is lotion" for that exact reason.
Yeah, sure.
Your back doesn't hurt because you did something to it. Your back hurts because you didn't do something to it.
Because you're not moving it. Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
And
No,
I remember,
makes sense.
and nowadays, like you sprain your ankle, they're not like ice and rest. No, ice and move it.
Yeah.
Because they found out that moving your joints and all that, you put blood in it, and that's what makes you better.
Yeah.
I just think that I got an old guy that lives next to us, and he's just one of those old guys, a lot of fun to talk with, and he just busts my balls all the time. And he said, "You go to the gym today?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I did." And he goes, "What'd you do?" I said, "Did overhead presses and deadlifts." He goes, "What do you do that for?" I go, "Because that's what a human body is built to do. Puts things over our head, pick things up, walk down the street, walk over a mountain, carry something, do whatever. That's what we're built to do." And he goes, "Yeah, these doctors say that that's not good for you anymore." And I go, "So you're going to take 500 years of evolution out in 20 years? Come on, get the fuck out of here, dude." You know what I mean? So, I just think my opinion is, you climbing that mountain is just amazing, because I've always been fascinated with the mountain because of its environmental. It's got like all four seasons in it.
Yeah, they're all there.
Right.
Yeah.
And the wildlife and everything else that we can go on and on about it. There's just a lot of cool things, and I highly recommend people look it up. Just sit on your phone and Google it. It's just some cool facts about it.
It's there, Walt. You can do it. I mean, it's
right.
I think that it's been called like the everyman's Everest. You know what I mean? Like Everest. If you wanted to do Everest,
cool.
It's going to cost you like $80,000 to $100,000.
Oh, fuck off. Yeah.
You'd be gone. You'd be gone for months, just getting over there and acclimating. And it's that place is lethal. Lots of people die there. This one it was not a technical climb, so it's not like you're hanging by ropes and stuff. You can hike your way up Mount Kilimanjaro. The route we took is hikeable. It's not it's not like rappelling from ropes. So it's there, and it's just and the country was so beautiful, and the people were amazing. Just all of it was just such an incredible experience. I remember day one, we're walking through the rainforest, and suddenly you look up and there's monkeys. And I've seen monkeys in zoos and stuff, but you're like, oh, no, this is their turf. This is if they want to come down and rip my face off, they can. Nothing's stopping them.
Nope.
But not to ruin the story, but they did not. They just let me pass by.
No, dude, I can see you here, man. No, you're all good, unless you got a hell of a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, no, the monkeys didn't. They didn't take much notice. They were just whatever, keep moving, and there they were.
Yeah, it's just so cool to be out in the environment, and like you said, you have a single. It wasn't like the only thought you had, but it was a big thought you had for a long time. I'm training for this. I got to get ready for this. And then once you're doing it and you're in it, that's just cool, dude. I've had situations like that, not that big. But like you said, it's relative, right? I mean,
totally relative.
Tackle what you are able to do. But one thing, first of all, congratulations, man.
Thanks.
Climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
you can find all that on your website. I'll have all the links in my show notes, dude.
Great.
All right.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to ask you about is storytelling.
Yeah.
You get up on. We talked about The Moth, which is an awesome podcast.
Yeah, they're great.
It was a little bit of inspiration for this.
Mm-hmm.
But like, do you do that? It sounds like you do that quite a bit.
Yeah, I want to do more of it. So there's storytelling's having a real renaissance, and anyone who's not familiar with The Moth, it's amazing. It's people just sharing stories from their lives, true stories from their, and it could be about anything. Man, some of the best stories are like a crazy first date, or a bad day at work, or like just regular life stuff that all of us can relate to. It's just so good, and so. There's various storytelling groups that are popping up in cities all over the world, and it's just people. The one I like to go to, it's in Boston. You have 5 minutes. Someone's literally there with a timer. Yep. And there's a theme for the night, and you should go, and 5 minutes. Like, that's how long you have. And some people just can spin a yarn, man. Like, you're right there with them, and they're so good. And other people are like, have something to get off their chest, but whatever. It's just real. It's so very real, of people up there just like bearing a little bit of their soul. And I'm a huge fan of doing it and listening to it, because it changes you, right? You're here, you're connecting with people. It's everything that we talk about today is so scary, right? You're just like, I like apples more than oranges. Oh, you would say that with your political views, and you're like, no. I'm just talking about fruit.
I was going to say, man, just because I don't like to peel it, I just like to start eating it.
Yeah,
that's what a Republican would say. And I'm like,
no, it's just a piece of fruit. So what's cool though is these stories. There's nothing to do with politics. It's just like everyday life that all of us can relate to. Like the time I learned to ride a horse, and you're like, wow. It's time I had to get rescued on a hike. Like, I didn't expect that, and I love the idea that this is having a renaissance, like podcasts, like what you're doing, right? I mean, it's just people talking, and that's, I think we're craving real things.
I agree with that. I really like The Moth, just because of that. People talking, and you never know, like
anything.
That's our go-to when we travel.
Moth,
yeah. So we'll just put it on the car and just let it play, right?
Yeah.
Jump on the podcast and let it play. Yep. And you just never know. And some of these people, the way they tell stories, like you said, there's this one. He talks about getting groceries, and he's on the subway, and the bags get wet, and just it's so awesome. You're like, all he talks about is, he went to Whole Foods, got on the subway, and it started raining, and all his groceries fell out the bag. But he went on for like 12 minutes, and it was just, you're just like, you shut it up. You go to the next store, and you're like, no, we got to hear that again.
Yeah.
And you listen to it again. Storytelling. I love storytelling. I grew up telling stories. I love hearing them. I love telling them. But yeah, so I wanted to touch base with you on that. Now, is that the type where you like sign up so you're going to tell a story?
Well, so if you were looking at my Instagram, like, I was the headliner on that one, so I knew I was telling a story.
Sure.
Otherwise, you could go there and you literally put your name in a hat and say, I would like to go up. No one's obligated, so you write your name down and you say, I would like to try on this, and they reach into the hat and see who's next, and you have 5 minutes to tell your story. And Moth works the same way. I mean, I've seen Moth live too, where people can go up and write their names down, and hopefully you get chosen. Not everybody does, because there's only so much time in the show.
Yeah.
And so, but you're a better person for even hearing them, because you're just listening to real people get up there, and it's also it's a brave thing, right, to stand in front of an audience and say, I'm going to share something personal with you.
Yeah, be totally vulnerable.
Yeah, vulnerable and naked, and I've always found those audiences are incredibly kind, because they recognize that. They see themselves up there and go, oh man, I don't know if I could even do what you're doing. That. Yeah, right. Some people, that petrifies them. They'll love to hear it, but it's just such a great environment, and it's one of those things where, like, you realize these are things that bring us closer together. These are things that just talking, like you said, talking about a bag of groceries that dissolved in the rain. we can all relate to that crap.
Exactly right. Yep.
Doesn't matter who
Yep.
you are. Like, you're like, oh yeah, that's a bad day.
I've been there. I know what that is.
We've all been there. Yeah, like, oh God, you're coming out, you're getting soaked, and you're dropping crap, and the eggs break, and you're like, rah, this is my day. We've all been there, and we can relate, and we can bond over that.
The one that we go to, or we're going to before all the craziness, you actually would sign up on the website or on the on their little site, and you knew you were going to tell a story because
that's great.
So it's a little smaller, and they're trying to build it up, and I'm hoping they come back because I tried watching one. I didn't sign up, but they were doing it on Zoom.
Oh yeah.
It's just
not the same. It's not the same. Zoom. God.
I heard a guy. I heard a guy say, "God, who said the quote?" But go with podcasting because I like to do it. My older ones before all this craziness, I would go to people's house and they would come to my setup and all that because I like the human interaction. If you and I were sitting across the table from one another, the energy's there, and it's just a different feeling, right? I mean, that's undeniable. But because of everything going on, we do it this way.
Yeah.
But just watching that, it just wasn't. And the guy goes, podcasting in real life. I'm sorry. Let me back up. He goes, podcasting on Zoom is like sexting. You can get it done, but it's still not the same as in real life.
That's true. Yeah.
But on that note, dude, we're going to get the hell out of here, man.
Sounds good.
I can't tell you how much I enjoyed having you on.
Well, thanks, Walter. It was good to talk to you.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Just hang out just 1 second. We're going to get out of here, and we'll keep on keeping on. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Whew, man, did I have a good time talking with Jeff, and I'm definitely going to have him back on because there's a handful of things that he is involved with that I want to talk to him more in depth about. And you want to check that out. I highly recommend. I cannot express it enough. Highly recommend you check out this dude's website. The link is in the show notes. Jump over there, and I bet you he would love to talk to you. And contact him through there and check out all the cool stuff. Now, I'm going to get you out of here because I know you got shit to do. Don't forget, Live Rishi. These guys make high-quality CBD product. Let them know I sent you by using the code word TABLE. LiveRishi.com, code word TABLE. 50% off. My website, waltzkitchentable.com. Would love for you to click around, check everything out, and feel free to contact me through there as well. Having a great time blogging. You can get through that through Buy Me a Coffee. And remember, when I say have a great day, the motherfucker is silent. Till next time.